Dad said you're the biggest disgrace to this family. My sister sneered. I stood up perfect. Then erase me from your will too. My mom almost choked on her drink. Which brings me back to that ballroom, back to the 30th anniversary of Harrison Properties. My father Gregory was still on stage, basking in the applause from the crowd. He had spent his entire life building this empire, and this night was his victory lap. I'd spent my entire life just trying to be seen by him, trying to earn a single drop of that approval. I was done waiting. I just wanted the night to be over. But he wasn't finished. He raised his hand, and a hush fell over the room. 200 pairs of eyes, Boston's real estate elite investors, local politicians, all focused on him. A legacy, he said. His voice booming over the microphone is built on strength, on family, on children who respect that legacy. He paused, and his eyes scanned the crowd, bypassing my mother Patricia, bypassing my sister Olivia, and landing directly on me. I felt my blood run cold. It felt like a physical spotlight had just hit me. But he continued, and his voice dripped with a contempt. I knew so well sometimes that legacy is threatened. It's threatened by weakness, by failure, by choices that are nothing short of a public embarrassment. I could hear the whispers starting. Who is he talking about? I saw my sister Olivia, sitting near the front, slowly adjust her diamond necklace. She was smiling. Not a polite smile for the party, a sharp, satisfied, vicious smirk. She knew exactly what he was doing. She was enjoying it. Then he did it. He pointed, not a vague gesture, but a direct, accusing finger right at me, across the entire ballroom. Laura, he boomed, you are the biggest disgrace to this family. The silence in the room was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the ice shift in a glass at the next table. I looked at Olivia. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a look of wide-eyed, victorious shock. My mother Patricia just stared at her plate, frozen. And Gregory, my father, he looked satisfied. He looked proud of himself. He expected me to cry. He expected me to run out of the room, humiliated, confirming for everyone that I was the weak link he'd just declared me to be. He expected me to break. And in that second, something inside me didn't break. It hardened. The years of biting my tongue, of shrinking in my chair, of trying to be invisible, it all just evaporated. The hurt was gone. All that was left was this cold, sharp clarity. I pushed my chair back. The sound, that horrible grinding scrape of wood on the polished floor, tore through the silence of the ballroom. Every head snapped toward me. I stood up slowly. I didn't rush. I looked past Olivia, past my mother, and I locked eyes with my father, who was still standing on that stage, his face frozen in confusion. I let the silence hang for 1 beat, 2. Then I picked up my wineglass from the table, raised it slightly toward him, and said, my voice perfectly clear, perfectly calm, carrying across the room. Perfect. I watched his face twitch. Then erase me from your will, too. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't an angry outburst. It was a statement. My mother Patricia made a small gasping sound, and her champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. I saw Olivia's mouth fall open. The victorious smirk was gone, replaced by genuine, panicked confusion. This wasn't part of the plan. And Gregory, my father, he just stared, speechless. The script he had written for this night didn't include this scene. I placed my cloth napkin neatly on the table. I didn't storm out. I didn't run. I turned and I walked. I walked past the tables of stunned strangers, past the whispering investors, past my family. I could feel 200 pairs of eyes on my back, but for the first time in my life, I do not care. I reached the grand doors of the ballroom, pushed them open, and stepped out into the empty hallway, leaving all of it, the money, the legacy, and their judgment behind me. Walking out of that ballroom wasn't an end. It was an ignition. The next day, I had my lawyer draft the papers. I formally renounced any claim to the Harrison Properties inheritance, every cent, every share, every brick. My father didn't respond. My mother didn't call. Olivia, I'm sure, was celebrating. They thought that cutting me off would be my punishment. They didn't realize it was my liberation. I poured everything I had, every last dollar of my meager savings, into Beacon Films, my tiny production studio. It was just a rented room above a coffee shop in a less than glamorous part of Boston, with exposed pipes and a window that rattled when the train went by. But it was mine. I lived on ramen and sheer adrenaline. I sold my car. I worked 18-hour days editing footage until my eyes burned. My boyfriend Ethan was my anchor. He'd show up at 2 a.m. with coffee and sit with me reviewing rough cuts, his belief in me unwavering. "You're building an empire, Laura," he'd whisper, "just a much cooler one." I was struggling, but for the first time in my life, I was free. My first documentary short, the one about the street artists, started making the rounds at local festivals. It was raw and honest, and it got noticed. One email changed everything. It was from Marcus, the CEO of a major Boston tech firm. "Your work has a voice," he wrote. "I want to hire you." He wanted Beacon Films to produce a multi-part documentary series for his company's foundation. The contract was for multiple 6 figures. It was enough to hire a small crew to get real equipment to finally breathe. I felt like I had finally proven my worth on my own terms. But the high didn't last long. As soon as production started, things got weird. A key subject I'd spent weeks booking a community leader suddenly backed out, sending a cold email saying he couldn't be involved with my project. Then our filming permit for a crucial location was suddenly lost in the city's system, delaying us by a week. At first, I thought it was just bad luck. But then the online whispers started. A rival filmmaker, Vanessa, a woman I barely knew but who competed for the same grants, started posting vague comments online. She wrote about filmmakers who aren't professional and stories of stolen ideas. It was subtle, but it was targeted. I had just escaped one battle only to find myself in the middle of a new one. Vanessa's attacks weren't just random rumors, they were surgical. She mentioned details about my project timeline that were only discussed in closed-door meetings with Marcus. She knew which potential sources I was courting. One anonymous comment online even referenced a specific budget line I had debated with Ethan just days before. "This isn't just rivalry," I told Ethan one night, staring at another scathing blog post. "She knows things she shouldn't know. It feels like she's in the room with us." Ethan's face was grim. He had been quiet, but I could see the gears turning in his mind. She's not just a rival Laura. She's getting information. From who? My team is just me and you. "Let me look into something," he said. "Marcus has a guy, a cybersecurity specialist. Let's see how Vanessa's production company is funded." I didn't ask questions. I just let him work. 2 days later, he put a laptop in front of me. His face was pale. "Vanessa's studio has been getting regular payments from an anonymous source," he said, pointing to a transaction log. "A shell corporation registered in Delaware. It looks clean, but it's a shell for another shell." He kept clicking. He traced it back. "The money originates from a private holding company." He showed me the name. Harrison Properties Subsidiary 7. I just stared. That's my father's company. No, Ethan said gently. Look closer. It's not your father's main account. It's a discretionary fund. The only person with signature authority on this account is Olivia. I felt the air leave my lungs. It wasn't a rival filmmaker. It was my sister, Olivia. It all clicked into place. The precision of the attacks, the timing, the viciousness. This wasn't just professional jealousy. This was calculated. She hadn't just let me be humiliated at the party. She was actively trying to destroy my new life. And I knew why. The rumors I'd heard about Harrison Properties weren't just rumors. The projects Olivia was managing were failing. I'd heard whispers of massive losses. She was scared. She wasn't worried I'd come back for the money I'd already renounced. She was terrified that my success, especially success with a major tech CEO like Marcus, would make our father see her as the real failure. She was terrified he might change his mind and see me as the competent one. She didn't hire Vanessa to get me out of the way. She hired her to eliminate me as a threat to her inheritance. This wasn't just my sister being cruel. This was my sister trying to financially execute me, knowing Olivia was behind it all. It changed something in me. The hurt I felt from my father's humiliation was a dull ache. This was a sharp, calculated betrayal. I didn't call her. I didn't send an angry text. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. I just went back to work. I poured every ounce of that cold fury into finishing the documentary for Marcus. I worked day and night, editing, refining, polishing every frame until it was perfect. The story wasn't just about Boston's hidden communities anymore. It was my story. It was about finding a voice when the world and your own family tries to silence you. The film premiered to a standing ovation. A month later, I was standing on a stage, blinded by spotlights, holding an award for Documentary Filmmaker of the Year. My hands were shaking as I stepped up to the microphone. I looked out at the crowd and I didn't see my family. I saw Marcus smiling in the front row. I saw Ethan wiping a tear from his eye. I saw my Aunt Teresa, who had driven all the way from her university just to be there. Thank you, I said, my voice thick. This isn't just for me. This is for everyone who has ever been told their story doesn't matter. It does. Keep fighting for the truth. Keep telling your story. The applause was deafening. That was my justice. The rest was just fallout. As Marcus had predicted, a reporter fueled by a few anonymous tips from his guy started digging into Vanessa's sudden rise and fall. It didn't take long to connect the dots. The journalist uncovered the shell company, the payments, and the direct link to Olivia Harrison. The story wasn't just about professional sabotage anymore. It was about a bitter family feud. Vanessa's career was over. She was blacklisted, a pariah in the film community. And Harrison Properties. The scandal was the final push they didn't need. Weighed down by millions in debt from Olivia's failed projects, the public exposure of her tactics caused their remaining investors to pull out. 6 months after I won my award, Harrison Properties filed for bankruptcy. Gregory and Olivia lost everything. The empire Gregory had spent his life building, the legacy he had shamed me for, was gone. The final scene isn't me laughing at their downfall. The final scene is this. I'm standing in the new offices of Beacon Films. It's not a tiny room above a coffee shop anymore. It's a bright, open-plan studio filled with young, ambitious filmmakers. I'm standing at a podium in our own screening room, announcing the launch of the Beacon Fund. Using the profits from our first major contract, I say, My Voice Steady, we are launching a grant program. It's designed to find and fund young filmmakers whose voices are being overlooked, especially those who've been told their passion is just a hobby. As I watch the faces of the first grant recipients, young, hopeful, and a little bit scared, I finally understand. We're taught that blood is everything, that family is a bond you can't break even when it's breaking you. But I've learned that letting go of a toxic bloodline isn't a betrayal. It's a necessary, agonizing act of self-preservation. It's the moment you stop asking for a seat at their table and finally give yourself permission to build your own. You realize that family isn't just something you're born into, it's something you build. It's the people who show up, the people who respect your passion, the people who see your worth even when you can't see it yourself. I didn't lose a family. I just finally found mine.